Horror Hounds. Got another really quick horror memory for you today. For those keeping score, this will be the fourth one. I've previously talked about how key James Herbert was in developing my horror taste, as well as the Hamlin Book of Horror and the amazing but short-lived Scream comic. And a couple of days ago I was reading something online that just someone was talking about the BBC2 horror double bills, and I thought, you know, if anything deserves a Horror Memories video, it is that. It's something from my childhood that I wondered whether I was sort of remembering it falsely as a sort of formative schooling in horror cinema, because I was thinking it can't have been that perfectly formed as the way I'm remembering it, but yes, indeed, BBC2 back in the 70s and 80s used to screen horror double bills, and I sort of the conversation made me think, no, I need to definitely check up on this. I need to find out whether these are false memories or actual. If you just Google BBC2 horror double bills, one of the top links will take you to the Wikipedia page where someone has gloriously laid out everything that BBC2 used to screen. Back then, it was obviously just a schedule filler, you know, trash to fill the late night schedules up with, but obviously for some of us it was a key part of our childhood, that you could actually watch these things, you know, before VHS, before you could download, collect DVDs, Blu-rays and stuff like this. Is the only place you could really get to see this stuff. And the whole history of it's there, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 80, you know, every year they seem to have a horror double bill, starting the year I was born. But this particular one that I remembered was screened in 83, so I would have been 8. And my dad would have recorded it for us. I think me and my brother would have probably sat down and watched them. Back then my mum worked on a Saturday, so I think we got the chance to watch these horror movies while she was out of the house, and it was a little bit hush-hush. But between July and September of 1983, BBC2 screened horror double bills, the Universal Monster stuff, in order, if you can believe it. So the first night, Dracula and Frankenstein. Then Bride of Frankenstein got its own slot. It wasn't doubled with anything. The week after that, Dracula's Daughter and Son of Frankenstein. The week after that, The Mummy and Ghost of Frankenstein. Then The Wolfman and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. What a double bill. Then Son of Dracula and House of Frankenstein. After that, The Mummy's Hand and House of Dracula. And Saturday, the 3rd of September 1983, an amazing triple bill, The Black Cat, Murders in the Rue Morgue and The Ravens, so capping off with a Edgar Allan Poe triple bill. But just reading that list, my memory of it was as perfect as I'd imagined it to be. Possibly the best introduction for a kid who's 8, who's already into horror, and is too young to see the heavy stuff. This is a proper dip your toe in the water type stuff, that you can see Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and all of these things, and all of their sequels, and what happens to them. Within fairly safe now films that aren't likely to give nightmares, and I think that was a good gauge for my dad to decide that we weren't having nightmares. We could watch sort of more stuff in secret. You graduate to Hammer, and then on from there the Omen movies. I remember that was the real turning point. I think the real frisson, because when some channel must have screened all 3 Omen movies one weekend after another, and I can remember my dad putting in the VHS tape, and as it was going in the slot, he turned around and said to us, "Don't tell your mother." So that was like, okay, now we're getting into the taboo territory, and the Ave Santani music started up. I went, "It's the Omen!" God knows how I knew at sort of like 8, 9 that it was the Omen, but I knew. I mean, I was obviously hungry for this material, and obviously a great debt of gratitude to my dad for realising that that it was good for me rather than a bad influence and liable to give me nightmares and things. And my mum was much more reactive about stuff like that and much more wary of it. But this was the stuff that engaged me intellectually and imaginatively, and I'm very grateful to BBC2 for screening these double bills, and I'm exceedingly grateful to my dad for videoing them for us and playing them to us when my mum was out of the house. Not only did it give me what I wanted, but it added a little frisson, an extra frisson of the forbidden, because it was a secret thing. And this is exactly what horror should be. And this is the perfect introduction. If you've gone through the Grimm's fairy tales, if you like the darker children's stories, if you're seeking out horror fiction in writing, Dracula, Frankenstein, James Herbert, Scream comics, this is the perfect way to introduce a kid to these horror archetypes that they already know of. Everyone already knows about Dracula. I mean, the fucking Count from Sesame Street. Everyone already knows who Frankenstein's creature is. So these films are absolutely the perfect introduction to that for a kid to just start developing your tastes in horror cinema. And obviously, 34 years later, you can see that it's a fascination and a love that doesn't go away. So thank you, BBC2. Thank you, Dad.